Every time I wash my hands before a case, I still feel it. My dad looked at me across that old kitchen table, steam rising from his chipped mug. I had just pinned on second lieutenant. He took a slow sip and said, "So you're just going to be a glorified nurse in the Army." I didn't argue, didn't explain what the job really meant. I just finished my coffee, gave a small nod, and walked out. 8 years later, in a conference room that smelled of burnt coffee and fresh printer paper, General Harlan Brooks, 4-star, took my hand with both of his cold, shaky hands. He leaned in and pressed his lips to my knuckles for a brief second. The whole room went dead silent. Colonels stared at their folders. Majors suddenly found the floor very interesting. I held the smile like protocol demanded. But inside, I felt almost nothing. And I knew exactly how I got there. My name is Rachel Morgan, 1st Lieutenant, Combat Nurse Anesthetist, 10th Mountain Division at Fort Drum. The job was never clean. It was freezing tense at 0:30, helicopter rotors still thumping, litters lined up under harsh lights, the sharp smell of saline and blood mixing with diesel, nitrile gloves snapping on, monitors beeping while you kept someone alive long enough for the surgeons to catch up. Being a woman there meant you were always being watched closer. One off day and it wasn't just a mistake. It became a question mark on every female who came after you. I learned that quick on my first deployment. Sand in your boots, exhaustion so heavy your hands trembled when you tried to chart. Back at Drum, my dad stayed consistent. Retired first sergeant. He kept my commissioning photo on the fridge and bragged at the VFW, but to my face he'd still ask after a few beers, "When you gonna do something that actually matters, Rach?" I stopped pushing back. Just worked harder. That's where Specialist Kayla Reeves came in. We got assigned as roommates on the same forward surgical team. 2 women trying not to stand out too much or too little. At first it was polite. Then one brutal winter night after a 22-hour rotation, we ended up on the barracks floor. Cold pizza between us, snow tapping the window. She handed me one earbud. We listened to old country and laughed about stupid stuff. Supply never having the right sizes, NCOs watching us during PT like hawks. After that, the friendship settled in naturally. She'd catch my locker before inspections and fix loose threads. I'd stay late and finish her charts when her eyes were burning. During one inspection, she covered for me when a migraine hit hard, told the sergeant I was with a patient. I returned every favor. We had our routines, sharing coffee while it was still hot, teasing each other about bad hair days in the motor pool, sitting on the hood of her old Civic after long shifts, breath fogging in the cold, talking about how scared we were of letting people down. She once admitted she felt like she was always being compared. I told her I was tired of proving I belonged. For a while, it felt like we were carrying each other. We got pulled to a high-visibility command exercise, brass everywhere, General Brooks observing. One night, a training accident turned real, vehicle rollover, casualties coming fast. The tent filled with radio static, urgent voices, boots on wet flooring. I handled the colonel first, then General Brooks coded in the TOC, gloves sticky, generator rumbling outside. I ran the code, pushed meds, managed the airway, kept him going until the cardiologist arrived. He survived. Next morning, the story moved quietly, longer nods in the hallway. Someone left coffee on my desk. 2 days later, they called me in. Kayla had submitted a signed statement. She said she saw me taking stimulants before the incident. Said she'd covered for me before because of stress. Photos of pills in my locker. They weren't mine. The commander didn't raise his voice. He just looked tired, almost relieved they had an explanation. A young female lieutenant cracking under pressure was something they could handle. Kayla sat across the table, eyes red, fingers twisting a pen. She said it hurt, but she had to do the right thing. I kept my face still, but I kept thinking about every late night, every shared earbud, every time officers had said things like, "Morgan's got this. Why can't you keep up?" right in front of her. She'd just smile tight and stay quiet. The silence came slow and heavy. In the DFAC, fluorescent lights buzzed louder. I'd walk in and tables would thin out without a word. Trays clattered, boots squeaked on linoleum, then nothing. People avoided eye contact like it might stick. Kayla moved out a few days later, left a short note. I threw it away. The investigation dragged, conflicting statements, paperwork delays, days waiting in cold offices for signatures that never came on time, incomplete evidence, lingering suspicion even as cracks appeared. Rumors kept moving in hallways and smoke pits. I started waking at 0300, checking my locker again and again. The barracks hallway smelled of floor wax and old boots. I'd take food back to my room and leave most of it. One morning I snapped at a specialist who asked if I was okay, voice sharper than I meant. Guilt hit later, but I didn't apologize. Dad called. Someone had told him. He gave me the usual line about nurses with big egos. I set the phone down and walked away. Let him talk to empty air. Helicopters in the distance made my stomach tighten. I sat in safety briefings staring at the floor while laughter happened around me. I'd almost say something to someone in the hallway, then pull back. Trust felt dangerous now. I felt myself getting smaller, quieter. The part that laughed easily, that stayed late for teammates, that part was fading. General Brooks eventually asked about the lieutenant who worked on him. When they mentioned the investigation, things shifted slowly. New drug test clean. Serial numbers didn't match. Security logs showed my locker accessed while I was in the OR. Evidence had holes. Command didn't apologize. They just became carefully correct again. People started saying, "Ma'am." But the caution stayed. Rumors didn't die completely. 3 weeks later, my promotion to captain cleared. Quiet. No fanfare. I saw Kayla one last time loading her car outside the barracks. Gray sky, frost on the vehicles. She looked small, tired. We made eye contact. Neither of us spoke. She looked away first. They held the recognition in the main conference room. General Brooks moved slowly, still pale. He stood, took my hand with both of his cold ones, and pressed his lips briefly to my knuckles. He seemed almost embarrassed by the gesture. The room filled with thick, uncomfortable silence. He said a few quiet words. Some people clapped. A few meant it. After that, the days just continued. Safety briefings at 0630, formations in the cold coffee, distant rotors, gloves snapping before cases. Every time I scrubbed my hands, I felt that brief pressure on my knuckles for a second. Then it passed. I stayed in. I still do the work. I keep soldiers alive when they come off the birds. But something broke off during those weeks and never grew back. I don't share earbuds anymore. Don't stay late finishing someone else's charts. I do the job clean and go home to quiet rooms. Sometimes I think about Kayla. She wasn't evil. She was scared the pressure would crush her if it didn't land on me. I wonder if I missed the signs, if I unknowingly made it harder for her. I can't forgive her. But part of me understands. Every time I wash my hands before a case, I still feel it. Then I dry them, pull on fresh gloves, and keep going.